welcome everybody this week. We're already getting into midterm time, which seems absolutely amazing. This semester, it seems like time is moving so fast and so slow at the same time. It is the weirdest experience, but we're surviving it, and that is the most important thing. I did want to welcome any of our new PRSSA members to our meeting tonight. I was really pleased when I just checked in with our chapter roster on the PRSSA website, and we already have 10 new members for PRSSA for this semester, which is phenomenal. So we're really excited to have so many new members. For anybody who is attending tonight that is up for renewal or would like to become a member, I wanted to just remind you that our chapter is working with PRSSA National, and we have a 25% early bird discount that offers good until October 15th. All you have to do is join through the PRSSA National website. You've probably seen that in some of the email updates from Lauren for our PRSSA chapter. The cost up until October 15th is $56.25. So $41.25 goes to your national dues, and then $15 goes right back to our chapter. After October 15th, it will be $55 for your national dues, but we'll still keep the $15 reduced cost for our chapter for the entire year. And to become a member in the fall cycle, the final deadline for that is November 1st. If you've got any questions about it, you need to know how to get to that membership portal on the website, feel free to drop me an email. I can go ahead and get you hooked up with that, and I'll leave my email address in our chat room. Tonight, we actually have two very special guests. We have Dr. V, who's going to be doing a quick announcement about the agency class that he actually teaches. This is probably one of our most popular PR classes at Kennesaw State, and this actually does have an application process, and the deadline's coming up. And our other guest speaker is going to be Brad Taylor, who is from our business college, who is going to be discussing personal branding, which is honestly one of my favorite topics as well. So I'm really looking forward to listening to the insights I'll be able to gain from this presentation. But first, I'm going to toss it over to Dr. V and let us know about the agency class.
I think you froze.
Tom?
No, you didn't.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. We can hear you now. Kind of.
Not anymore.
Okay, let me go ahead and try, and if it just becomes too much, just give me the thumbs down and I'll sign off, and I'll record a video for you later and I'll end that.
Okay,
all right?
That's great.
Okay, I'm gonna talk until I see a thumbs down, and so if I see a thumbs down, just let me know, and then I'll stop. But I do appreciate the time. I will try to be quick, and just wanted to reach out to all of you and tell you a little bit about the agency. Hopefully you have heard about it, and certainly if you haven't, I hope in the next couple of weeks you will, because we are kind of putting our pushing our message out. We always try to promote the agency this time of the year as we get closer to registration for next semester, and we are going to be teaching the class, but as Dr. Wheat said, you have to apply for it. Things real quick that are important for you to understand about the agency. All of you PR majors know that eventually by your senior year, you're going to be taking a capstone class. Historically, that capstone class is a class where you spend all semester working on a project that basically is developing a campaign plan, a PR campaign plan. for a client. And at the end of the semester, you've got the plan, you present it to the client, they look at it and they think, oh, wow, this is a great idea. You've done a lot of really good work on it. The question, though, that sometimes happens is after you finish doing the plan or preparing it, giving it to the client, and you're finished for the semester, you wonder, we really think we came up with a good plan, and we really think that this could have worked. I wish we could have actually implemented the plan to see how well it would have done if we had really done this. That's what the agency does. The agency allows you not just to create and develop a campaign plan, a PR plan for a client, but you actually do the work of the PR agency in that you develop it and implement it. And it allows you to bring some benefit to a client. And the benefit for you that it brings is that it allows you to really have a much fuller experience and a much stronger story on your resume, in your portfolio, and in your interview. Because now, instead of just talking about a campaign plan that you developed in your campaigns class but didn't do anything with it, you can actually tell a prospective employer, you did the plan, you implemented it, these are the strategy tactics that this is what didn't work, and this is why it didn't work, and this is the net result that we brought to the client in terms of actually achieving the goals and objectives that we set. It's a much more powerful story that you can bring into that interview process, and much more powerful experiences that you can rely on when you are in the corporate world, corporate PR environment or agency environment. It's hard work, and anyone that's in the class will tell you that. But we also structure it in such a way that the payoff, I think, is good as well. If you are interested in applying, you must be a senior. You must have completed your PR writing and your comm research methods class. You must be ready to take your capstone class. And as Dr. Wheat said, you must apply. The application is online. You can access it by going to the SOCM website and then going to the public relations major webpage, and it will take you from there. If you do have any questions and you'd like to discuss it about the application process or the agency in general, I really would encourage you to reach out to me. You can email me. My email address, I'll say it slowly, is T as in Tom, V as in Victor, I, Z as in Zebra, CARR at kennesaw.edu. There are
Okay,
So close.
so close. We got most of it, Dr.
So
V.
good.
At this point, I'm going to go. I will go ahead and put the link for the application and also Dr. V's email in our chat as well, so you all can have access to it. At this point, I'm going to hand things off to Lauren.
Okay, everyone, as Dr. Wheat said, we have another special guest in the house. He is no stranger to Kennesaw State University, as he is a professor here among the marketing department in the Coles College of Business, Mr. Brad Taylor, and he is the founder of Taylor Built Brands, and he will be discussing with us personal branding and how to build a better you. So, Mr. Taylor, if you want to go ahead and take it away.
Sure, and I'll share my screen here in a minute. But thank you guys so much for having me. It's just I love doing this kind of thing. I think it was last spring before COVID. I shared a similar presentation to the Kennesaw Marketing Association over in Coles College, and I guess the reviews were pretty good. So this is a topic that is kind of near and dear to my heart. So I do teach over in the Coles College. So I'm a part-time faculty member. Right now I'm teaching a brand strategy class. It's actually, the title of the class is Branding for Sustained Success. So it is all about building brands and brand strategies and kind of all the things that we talk about, or a number of things that we talk about from building corporate brands, actually apply to building our personal brands as well. So you'll see there are definitely some parallels, but clearly tonight we're going to focus, really focus on, building your personal brand, why it's important, And one of the greatest tools that I've found to build a personal brand is LinkedIn. So we're going to do kind of a deeper dive on LinkedIn. And so I'll share some slides and some thoughts, and certainly I would certainly welcome any questions that you guys may have. So if that sounds all right, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. You guys let me know if you can see it okay. Everybody good? You can see it? Awesome. Okay, so this is kind of my story on a page. I like to tell stories with photographs. So this is me. So I actually grew up in Rome, Georgia, not too far away. So one of the, I'm born and bred here in Georgia. Feel like one of the true kind of native Georgians around these parts these days. So grew up in Rome, Georgia, went to the University of Georgia, where I also studied advertising and PR. Now over at Georgia, advertising is part of the Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communication. And so that's where advertising and PR are housed at the University of Georgia. And I chose advertising. I can't really tell you why I chose advertising. It's something that I always felt like, hey, I consider myself a creative person, and I had a couple of friends in the advertising groups. I thought, let's give advertising a shot. And as I got into it, I really fell in love with it, kind of more from the business side of it versus the creative side of it. But I was also, just like you guys are, heavily involved. I was actually president of the advertising club at the University of Georgia my senior year. So this was way before Zoom, but we would have meetings and we would have guest speakers come in. And so I can relate to what you guys are doing, and it's a really good thing to do. Also listening about the campaigns class, I remember that was actually my favorite class of all time, was the campaigns class. In this case, it was an advertising campaigns class at Georgia. And we actually took that class and we entered, the team that I worked on, we entered the National Student Advertising Campaign Competition. And I hate it when that phone rings. We entered that competition and we actually won the national championship. So I brag about the University of Georgia. Way back when I was there, we won a football championship, but we also won the National Advertising Federation Student Advertising Campaign Competition Championship. So it's kind of my little national championship claim to fame, if you will. So graduated Georgia and then immediately started working. And on the next slide, I'll kind of take you through my career history. But now live in Roswell, not too far away from Kennesaw. And I play a little golf, play a little tennis. I love teaching. So this is just one of the passions of mine. I spent a lot of time at the Coca-Cola Company, and I spent some time while working at the Coca-Cola Company managing the company's relationship with the Walt Disney Company, which is why you see that icon on the screen. And actually before Pizza Hut, or before Coca-Cola, I worked for Pizza Hut in their marketing group as well. So here's kind of my my career, right? And so I'm giving away my age here, but you can see way back in the early 80s, after I graduated Georgia, I immediately went to work for an ad agency here in Atlanta. BBDO, I started as a media intern making hardly any money, but it was a foot in the door, and I was able to parlay that into getting an account management position in another agency. This agency was actually called Fletcher Mayo. It was part of the DDB group. There I worked on exciting accounts like Union Carbide and agricultural chemicals and Michelin tires. So not the sexiest of accounts, but hey, it was a good, well, I would say it was a decent paying job. It paid my bills at the time. Then went to work for another agency, Bozell. You guys may have heard of Bozell. Went to work on the Valvoline Motor account and stayed at Bozell for a number of years, about 4 or 5 years, and graduated up to vice president of accounts supervisor. And then I got a call from a recruiter about a job at Pizza Hut. Can you guys hear my dog barking in the background? Yeah, sorry about that. So I got a call from a recruiter about a job at Pizza Hut. Like, would you like to consider being a regional marketing manager for Pizza Hut? And I'm like, well, I think I know a thing or two about marketing, and I certainly love pizza, and Pizza Hut seems like a strong brand. So yeah, I went for that job and was actually got that job. And so started working for Pizza Hut here in Atlanta, and then got promoted, and they moved my wife and I to Wichita, Kansas, which, believe it or not, that's where Pizza Hut was headquartered at the time. They've since moved to Dallas. So we up and moved to Wichita, and I loved everything about my job. My last job at Pizza Hut, I was director of national delivery marketing. So this is back in the day when Pizza Hut just started home delivery. So I was responsible for the advertising campaign to launch home delivery. And so that was a tremendous job, loved it. But life in Wichita, Kansas was not what my wife and I had in mind. And we were eager to get back to Atlanta. So went to work for Joey Ryman. Some of you may have heard of Joey Ryman. He's kind of infamous in the Atlanta advertising agency circles. Went to work for Joey as the vice president of account management. Was there a couple of years. We won accounts like the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism, and that was a lot of fun. But then I got a call from another recruiter about a job at the Coca-Cola company, and would I be interested in that? And I thought, well, here's a kid from Rome, Georgia that, everything was a Coke where I grew up. And so, yeah, I would certainly be interested in going to work for Coca-Cola. So after an exhausting interview process, I was fortunate enough to land that job. So I started at Coca-Cola back in 1994 as a senior customer marketing manager. So think about that as customer marketing is really the bridge between all the marketing resources and brands and really everything that Coca-Cola has from a marketing perspective, and the customers who sell Coca-Cola products to end consumers. So my job was really working as a consultant to help those customers sell more Coca-Cola products and make them more money. So kind of leveraged my marketing and advertising and business consulting kind of background. Then moved into a director of customer marketing position. And then, I got the job of all jobs. At least I still believe it's one of the best jobs, certainly the best job I've ever had. I was the global director of the Disney business. So everything that the Coca-Cola company does with Walt Disney, the Disney company, at one point or another would cross my desk. And so I actually spent 10 years of my time at Coca-Cola working on the Disney relationship. And I was fortunate enough to be able to travel the globe and just learned so much from, as you can imagine, the very, very creative people at the Walt Disney Company. So did that for a long time, and then back to customer marketing for a short stint. And then I actually moved into a sales leadership position. I know you guys have heard marketing and sales are so closely intertwined, and that is certainly the case at the Coca-Cola company. So it wasn't that big of a shift for me to move over into a sales leadership position. So that was actually my last job there, vice president of national accounts. So I led a sales organization. And then, March of 2018, I was able to retire from the Coca-Cola company. And then I thought, well, I'm certainly not done working, but so what is it I'm going to do now in my chapter 2? So I'd always had a passion to teach, and I'd had the opportunity to speak to classes at Emory University and actually KSU as well. And I was involved in a couple of advisory boards. So I thought, you know what, I would love the opportunity to teach a class now and then. And so I was very fortunate enough to be able to do that at Kennesaw State starting, I retired in March. I started teaching at KSU in September of 2018, and I have taught at least one class every semester since then. So principles of marketing, I teach. The brand strategy class I was just talking about, I teach. I've taught an MBA class on brand and product management. So I love being in the classroom. I tell other people that I find that teaching keeps me current It keeps me youthful. It keeps me really passionate, engaged, and so it's something I truly love. And then I started my own consulting company, and it's called Taylor Built Brands. I just kind of made that name up. I thought, well, my last name is Taylor, and I really want to focus on brand strategy and brand management, help smaller companies kind of figure that out. So I was shocked that Taylor Built Brands was actually available as a URL. And when I saw it was available, I jumped on it. And so I kind of started my little consulting company, if you will. I do some brand strategy projects. I do marketing plan development projects. I do a fair amount of telephone consulting with various types of clients. So when I'm not teaching, I'm either out playing golf or I'm doing some level of consulting work. So that's kind of my career in a nutshell. But tonight we're going to talk about you and your brand. And I love, love, love this quote from Jeff Bezos at Amazon, who says, "Your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room." Now, for me, that is extremely powerful. And if you let that soak in for a few minutes, I think it'll be powerful for you as well. And that's why building a personal brand and managing that personal brand is so critically important, because of this, right? Your personal brand is just like, brands are perceptions that people have. Products are built in factories, but brands are built in the minds of consumers, right? And that same thing applies to us as personal brands. It's how people perceive us, right? And some may argue, well, I don't have control over how people perceive me. And that's not entirely true. You actually have a lot of control over how people perceive you. And just as we manage our corporate brands, and we manage them very carefully to ensure that consumers are perceiving what we want them to perceive about our brands, the same thing applies to our personal brand. So it's really important. And I love this thought as well, in terms of branding you. Determine what you think you're good at before others decide what they think you're good at. And that, again, speaks to the power of personal branding and managing your personal brand. So taking the time to identify, what is it that I want to be known for? How do I want to be perceived? What is it that I know I'm really good at and that I really want to leverage as a strength? And how do I broadcast that in a, not egotistical way, but how do I carefully manage that, so that other people realize, hey, yeah, you are good at that, right? So, and I've got this Beloved Brands logo. If you're interested, this is actually a book that I use in my brand strategy class right now. It's called Beloved Brands. It's written by Graham Robertson. You can find it on Amazon. It's just a tremendous, tremendous resource. It's just so simple and easy to understand, and just filled with lots of tools and templates to help you kind of think through everything about building a brand and managing a brand. And there's even a chapter on this idea of branding you. So understanding your personal brand. So what do we mean by that, right? And so, and again, this parallels with what we know about building corporate brands, right? First of all, we need to understand what are our strengths, right? So back to that idea of determine what you think you're good at. So what are your strengths? What makes you different than your peers, right? Because at the end of the day, as you guys graduate, you're going to be interviewing for jobs, and you're going to most likely be up against competitors. And so it's always a good idea to think about, how might I position my brand? How might I talk about my personal brand so that I come across as maybe different than the rest of the applicants, right? So, because just like in the world of building a professional brand, job number one is about positioning so that your brand stands out as being perceived as different, better, and more special than the competition, right? So it's important to go through the same exercise with your personal brand. And what unique value or benefits do you deliver? That's another important question to think about, right? And obviously you want to think about these things each and every time you're going into interview for a job or any interaction with someone who could help you land a job. You want to think about what unique value can I bring to this specific engagement that we're about to have. And as I learn more about the job that I might be interviewing for, what unique value or benefits do I believe I can deliver to the company that I might be interviewing for? So that's always an important thing to think about. And then lastly, what are the proof points that support that, right? So we can't just say, well, we're all about this, and you got to have something to back that up. And that's where a lot of the work that you guys are doing now in college classes, believe it or not, it can be proof points to what you're bringing forward. So always be thinking about what are the proof points that will support my strengths and the ways that I think I can deliver unique value. So I think those are really four kind of the cornerstones of understanding your personal brand. And this is a direct parallel to kind of how we think about building corporate brands. So just like with corporate brands, you should find the winning zone, which is going to be most motivating to the firm that you may be interviewing with or going to work for, and ownable for your personal brand, right? And I love this Venn diagram, because you think about, well, the first thing we got to understand is what is it that the firm needs? What's the firm needs? What are they looking for, right? And then what are your unique skills and traits that you can apply to deliver against what the firm needs? But you also might want to think about what are some unique skills or traits that maybe your peers or your competitors might have. And so this is all about how do you position yourself to get into the winning zone, which again is that area where what you bring to the table overlaps the best with what the firm is actually looking for, right? And clearly we want to stay out of the dumb zone, which is, you probably shouldn't be interviewing for jobs where your skills and traits don't really match up with what the company's looking for. And you probably don't want to apply for jobs where you kind of know going in that your skills and traits are kind of below what your peers may be bringing to the table, because you could kind of find yourself in the losing zone, and that could be a waste of time. Not to say that it's not a good idea to get lots of practice with interviewing. That's certainly the case, but it's all about obviously picking the right places, picking the right job opportunities that are most closely aligned with what your unique skills and traits are. So kind of always finding a way to position us so that we're in the winning zone. And so investing in brand new. You guys have probably heard this before, certainly in PR classes, this idea of everything communicates. Everything communicates. And certainly in today's digital focused world, where all of these things are readily available to everyone that you're coming in contact with, or when you're putting yourself out there. So things like headshot portraits, that communicates. We're going to talk a little bit later about your personal pitch, your elevator pitch. Certainly that's going to communicate. What about business cards? Yeah, that certainly communicates. Websites, portfolios, social media profiles, LinkedIn in particular. All of those things communicate. And what you want to have, just like we preach for corporate brands, is you want to have consistency of message. You want to make sure that every time someone may come across one of these things for you, they're sensing something that is consistent. And they can kind of pinpoint, oh yeah, that's what that person is really about. So kind of remember the idea that everything communicates. And then we think about, so what investing in brand use, what are the benefits? I mean, why would we spend time thinking about building brand you? Well, I mean, here are some thoughts on that. Oh, hold on. I mean, the first benefit is acknowledge and work with strengths and weaknesses. I mean, in order to do this personal branding stuff, you've got to give some thought to, well, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? And so you've got to identify those. And clearly, we always want to kind of build up our strengths. We also want to be aware of our weaknesses, not to let them get in the way, but be aware of our weaknesses. And in some cases, we might need to address a couple of weaknesses here and there. But I tend to focus on the idea of, let's identify our strengths and focus more on strengths while we kind of address any glaring weaknesses. So that's certainly one benefit of doing this kind of work. Positively showcase talent, right? Your talents. This is building your personal brand is not a time to be bashful or shy, right? It's about understanding your strengths, understanding your talents, and finding ways to showcase those strengths and talents. So that's certainly a benefit. Allows you to be original and innovative, right? So this idea of how am I going to stand out amongst the pack? That's right, pretty important in today's competitive environment. So as you think about that, how can you be original and how can you stand out? How can you be innovative? And then also increase social circles and networks with like-minded people, right? And this is something that is really powerful, I think, on LinkedIn. And again, we're going to take a deeper dive into LinkedIn, but kind of the way I use LinkedIn, and I use it a lot, and it's actually served me quite well in terms of bringing me consulting projects. I kind of decided that when I started my consulting business, I was going to I wanted to be known for brand strategy, brand management. And so that is my entire focus on LinkedIn. And if you pull me up and follow me, you'll see that I post a lot of content about the topic brand strategy, building brand love, right? And it's that consistency of message over time. Some people might think of, hey, that Brad Taylor, I think he knows a lot about brand strategy. He's always posting stuff about brand, so he must know a lot, right? So part of it is you got to get comfortable marketing yourself, but to market yourself, you got to be focused, right? And it kind of goes back to all those things we previously talked about, identifying your strengths. What is it that you really want to be known for? What's going to set you apart? And then once you've identified that topic or topics, then don't be shy about talking about that. Certainly on LinkedIn, it's so easy to post content on LinkedIn. And so I really encourage you to do that. So those are kind of the benefits of focusing on brand you. Now, Sept was going to talk a lot about LinkedIn, and you can easily Google this. I've captured some screenshots from this site, but you can Google LinkedIn for Students. And if you've never done this, I would encourage you to do that. It's filled with lots of information and recommendations on how to get the most out of LinkedIn. One of the things that I found that I thought would be helpful is the LinkedIn profile checklist. I mean, obviously your profile on LinkedIn is your brand, right? So it's the first time a lot of people, it's the first way they will ever come in contact with you, right? And so you want to make sure that you're maximizing the opportunities that exist on LinkedIn. So starting with the photo, right? And you'll see it doesn't have to be fancy. It can actually be done with the cell phone camera in front of a plain background, but you want it to look nice. And you want to be seen as pleasant and friendly and approachable, right? And so many times I see profile pictures where it's a group of people and you're trying to figure out, well, which person in this group is this person, right? So you want to avoid that. You want it to be you. right? Your LinkedIn profile is about you. So obviously you want your profile picture to be you and only you, right? Headline. So this is an area where you get to tell people what you're excited about now and the cool things you want to do in the future. And that's really important for students. It's like, so this is, I've recently graduated, or I'm about to graduate from Kennesaw State University with a degree in public relations, and I'm really jazzed about this work that I've done, and I look forward to bringing my talents to fruition with these kind of firms, right? So you're telling, what is your headline? Summary, kind of the next section is, this is where you describe what motivates you, what you're skilled at, and what's next, right? And so this is kind of, obviously your headline is the ultimate summary of the summary. And the summary, I really think of it as, what's your story? What's the story that you want to tell? It doesn't have to be long, but it needs to tell the reader a little bit about who you are as a person, kind of what you've done, what you've accomplished, and what you're most passionate about, and what you can uniquely bring to the table. So that's a really important area to focus on. And then experience. Now, obviously for students, students often tell me, well, I don't have any experience. And I'm like, well, sure you do. You have lots of experience. It may not be in paying jobs per se, but you have experience. So think about either the classes that you've taken, the clubs you've been a part of, the volunteer associations you've worked on, the part-time jobs you've had. That is experience. And so you don't want to be shy about that. And the idea there is to find a link between what you've done, the experience that you've gained, try and find links from that experience to what the company might be looking for, or what recruiters might be looking for. So it's important to kind of think about those linkages. Organizations, right? Again, not a time to be shy. You want to list the organizations that you've been a part of, because it shows that you are more than just a bookworm, that you are socially active, you're socially involved, and you've done what you've accomplished in your organization. So you certainly want to include all of those. Obviously, education, starting with college, list the educational experience you've had, and maybe including summer programs and certainly internships. Maybe capstone classes that you've been a part of, campaigns classes that you've been a part of, right? So you want to highlight the classes that are going to be most applicable to the jobs that you're going to be interested in, right? And so that's obviously what you want to do there. Kind of the same thing with volunteer experiences and causes, and then skills and expertise. And so this is where you get to decide the skills and areas of expertise that you want on your profile. You pick and choose them, right? So add at least 5 key skills, and then your connections can endorse you for the things that you're best at, right? And so that's kind of a tit for tat, right? So you identify the skills and expertise that you want to be known for, and then maybe ask your closest friends, hey, would you mind going and endorsing me for that? And obviously you want to return the favor, right? So it just shows that the skills and expertise that you've chosen, there's some validity to the idea that, yeah, other people think you're really skilled or expert in those areas. So that's something that is very easily done. And again, that's where you can leverage your connections to help each other out there. Honors and awards, again, don't be shy, bring those forth. Courses we've kind of talked about. Projects, so again, as Dr. V was talking about the campaigns, the capstone, the campaigns class, any work that you do as a part of those classes, or any key projects that you've worked on in other classes, you want the quality of that work to be kind of publishable, if you will. But LinkedIn is a place where you can share that, right? You can showcase, this is the work that I've done, right? So that's an important thing to do. And then lastly, recommendations. and this takes a little bit of work, but it's so important. So this is, this is where you have to ask managers or professors or classmates who've worked with you closely to write a recommendation. And this certainly gives extra credibility to your strengths and your skills. And the way you go about that is on the LinkedIn portal, you reach out to one of your connections and you ask them, you send them a message, would you mind writing a recommendation for me? I would really appreciate, if you're open to doing that, I would really appreciate if you would focus on these skills or traits that I have. And then most people say, I would love to write a recommendation for you. And so they'll write a recommendation, you'll get it back in your message portal on LinkedIn, and you get the opportunity to review it. And if you like the way it's written, then you just add it to your profile. If you don't necessarily like the way it's written, you don't have to add it to your profile. You could go back to the author and say, I'm so grateful that you did that. Would you mind terribly maybe editing it a bit to maybe showcase more of these kind of things? So recommendations, I think, are critically important. And a lot of students are like, well, I don't really know who I would get recommendations from. And it's like, well, the first place you should start is any jobs that you've had, reach out to those managers that you've had. Professors, I've written several recommendations for students that have been in my classes. If they go to the trouble to ask me to write a recommendation, and I believe that what they're asking me to write about, they have actually delivered, then I will gladly write a recommendation. And so the area of recommendations is one that I see often lacking with students, and there's really no reason for that. Their recommendations can be obtained. And again, a lot of recruiters, they're going to scan down your profile. They're going to look for recommendations. They're going to want to make sure that it adds validity to what you're saying that you're really best at. So don't be shy asking for recommendations. How many of you, I don't know if we can get a poll here, but some of you may be LinkedIn Premium members, some of you may not be, right? I'm seeing some head nods. What I've seen in previous classes or when I've shared this, less than half the class or half the audience is a premium member because, hey, let's be real, it costs money. It costs about $30 a month, but you get the first month free. So what do you get? What are the benefits of spending the money for LinkedIn Premium? Well, I captured this. A really important one, you get 5 what's called in-mail messages per month. And this lets you send emails directly to people who work at companies you might be interested in going to work for, who you may not have a connection with them at all. So you can identify someone on LinkedIn, and if you're a premium member, you can actually send them an email from LinkedIn, right? So you get 5 of those per month, right? So you kind of pick and choose, who do I want to send email to? And that could be a great way to get a dialogue going with the company that you're really interested in. So I think that's a pretty powerful benefit. Second one is you get to see who's viewed your profile and how many searches you've appeared in. And this is something that I look at regularly on my profile, because you're like, well, wow, if they're looking at my profile, maybe they might be interested in the work I do, and maybe I could reach out to them and say, hey, I noticed that you, viewed my profile. I'd love to connect with you, and is it possible that maybe we could have a dialogue, right? So you get to see who's viewed your profile. And again, how many searches you might have appeared in. So that down the road, as you guys graduate and get out there, that becomes important. Applicant Insights, this is also pretty powerful. So as you start considering jobs, you can see how your skills and capabilities and background match up to those competitors who have applied. So it gives you some insight into, for a specific job, you can get an idea of, am I in the top 10%? Am I in the bottom 10%? So those are some pretty powerful insights. And I'm not doing it justice here. Those insights are pretty deep. So that in and of itself is a significant benefit, I would think. You can also get additional salary information from companies that are hiring jobs that they're posting. And then, oh my gosh, access to on-demand learning videos. And there is a library that is filled with all kinds of instructional learning videos on all kinds of topics that you get to take for free as a part of your LinkedIn Premium membership. And again, a lot of these classes you can take and get a certificate in, and that's something you would obviously add to your LinkedIn profile, showing that you've added additional skills and capabilities. So again, it just makes you more marketable, all right? And so take advantage of all of those on-demand learning videos. And then there's actually a resume builder service as well, which just helps you kind of polish your resume, make sure it's the best that it can possibly be. So I know it's a lot of money, but I tend to think certainly as you get closer to start applying for jobs or in the job market, it's probably money extremely well spent because of the benefits associated with it. Elevator pitch. You guys have surely so give me a thumbs up. Have you guys worked on elevator pitches before? Right? Yeah. Really important. It's part of my class that I teach right now. I have every student, they work on their elevator pitch, they stand up and they deliver it. And we kind of follow this template, which is the 7-second template, right? Because let's say you're getting in an elevator and someone says, and maybe this is in a company that you're interested in, or maybe you're there for an interview, or maybe you're there to visit someone else. And let's just say the chief marketing officer or the CEO gets on the elevator with you, and it's just the two of you. And he or she says, well, hello, who are you? What a tremendous opportunity to tell your story in the form of a pitch, right? And it should never come across as rehearsed or robotic, but time well spent on your behalf to actually write out your elevator pitch and then practice the delivery of it such that so many times that it just comes out of your mouth, and it may not always come out the exact same way or using the exact same words, but it's something that can be really powerful for you. And I like this template. Kind of starts with, how do you define yourself? What primary benefit you bring to the table? What secondary benefit you provide? And then what's the expected result, right? And so as I've kind of thought about this, my elevator pitch, if you will, is, I'm a 35-year sales and marketing veteran. Have learned an awful lot from companies like Pizza Hut and Coca-Cola about how to build and manage and market brands. And I'm now ready to take all that learning to help smaller companies polish and build their brands and increase their sales. And I'm also really passionate about helping younger people learn and making for a brighter future for them. So that is my elevator pitch, right? And again, these are the actual words. And again, I don't always say these words, but hopefully the same thoughts came across. So as I wrote it out, again, seasoned Coca-Cola sales and marketing veteran, parlaying 35 years of experience to help businesses grow while building knowledge and confidence in young adults in the classroom to make brighter futures possible. So kind of following that template, I just crafted my elevator pitch, and you just heard me kind of botch it up a little bit, but that's kind of the idea of it, is you want to write it out, but you don't want it to sound like it's robotic. So hopefully that's helpful. And then I'll close with this idea of kind of building out your story, right? And so this is also comes from the book Beloved Brands. It just goes into kind of what's your full story. And so this becomes really important. Think of this as your biography. Kind of starts with what's your personal brand idea, right? And so then a section on the difference that you'll make. So again, what are your unique skills and capabilities that's going to enable you to make a difference? What are your background and qualifications that would support the difference that you'll make? What other unique services or experience might you have that would be of interest to someone who might be interested in you? And then I like this idea of a promise declaration. So we kind of start with, here's what my brand's all about, and here's my personal brand promise, right? And so I think this really comes into play. You could kind of follow this template to a certain degree as you're building out your LinkedIn profile, that story section. But this could also be a really powerful section of a personal website that you may have. And so I think we all go to companies' websites and they all have, you can click on our story. Well, this could be your story, right? And so I like this idea of spending a little bit of time to build out your story to share with others. So that was a lot. Hopefully that was helpful. I know I just kind of did all the talking, and you guys may or may not have questions. I would love to engage the questions you may have. I will certainly share this presentation so you guys can take it and use it as you wish. But hopefully that's what you guys were looking for. And maybe you have some questions. So.
Quick question.
Yes.
Go ahead, Jamie. You're good.
What would you recommend a few key things that we should include in a cover letter? Because cover letter is always something I've struggled with when applying to internships.
Yep.
And I just had to write one for an internship I applied to the other night. But I always feel like I don't know what to include, and I just sort of end up typing something up and that's it. But do you have some key things that we should try to get in there?
So one thought, now you may not go fully deep into this biography, but I think it could be a good model to follow. Now, I mean, obviously, the most important thing on cover letters, in my experience, is you don't want the cover letter to be seen as a generic cover letter that you've sent out to every company that you've ever expressed interest in. You want the cover letter to signal immediately, I am really interested in the job that you have posted. Here's why. Here's what I believe I will uniquely bring to the table. And so you could actually follow this template, if you will, to kind of organize those thoughts, right? But you want your cover letter to signal first and foremost to the reader that, hey, they understand the job that they're interested in, and they can bring something uniquely to the table. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you bet.
I also had a question.
Yeah, Lauren.
Sorry. When writing content on LinkedIn, I like LinkedIn is I love it. It's one of my favorite things. But when producing content, do you think there's kind of there's such thing as posting too much on LinkedIn, or do you think that it's just, oh well, everybody wants to hear, not of course everybody wants to hear what you have to say, but is there a line where
I'll give you my rule of, my thought and kind of the rule that I follow. I make sure that I'm posting something at least 2 times a week. Now, posting something, that doesn't have to be content that I've written. It could be content that I have found somewhere else that is related to what I want to be thought of as an expert on, and I share that content with my little 2 cents, as opening that content up, right? So I do that at least twice, sometimes 3 times a week. I generally do that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which at some point someone told me that's when most people are checking LinkedIn. So I post content at least twice, sometimes 3 times a week. But I'll also like other people's content and add, you know, some messages of support or asking questions that other people have posted, because again, that just shows up as activity on your profile. So I think it's really good to be active, consistently active on LinkedIn. And then as far as the content that you're actually sharing or publishing, you know, I think 2 to 3 times a week is probably sufficient. You definitely don't want, I've seen people who post multiple pieces of content a day, and you're like, okay, well that gets irritating, right? So I think there's a happy medium, but that's kind of the rules that I follow.
Okay, awesome.
Other questions? All right. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Hey, so this is great information. Thank you. So when it comes to, okay, like I like that you were talking about, you know, our brand is pretty much what people say about us.
Right.
And when it comes to like, if like I want to promote various different things that I do, like I recently got certified to be a dance fitness instructor. There's other things that I'm interested in, and of course, you know, as I develop as a PR professional, like I want to be promoting myself as that. Like, do you have any advice on how to do that in a way that still, I guess, kind of reach my objectives of getting my brand out? Because I don't feel like, well, yeah, that's my question is like, how would you suggest if you have just various different things that you want to be promoting?
Yeah, I mean, good question, right? Because I mean, certainly for young people like yourself, I mean, you're not pigeonholed yet, right? You've got all kind of things going on, and you don't necessarily want to put yourself in one specific box.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're getting at, and that's a very valid point. The advice I would give you there is still kind of think back to, even if I'm involved in all these different things that don't seem to be linked at all, what could be a common thread, right? So what is it about my brand that I bring through consistently across all these different activities or that I may be involved in? So that may be a way to the best that you can, try and find a common thread and bring that thread out every time you're talking about all these different and very varied experiences. Does that help?
Okay. Yeah, definitely, because it makes me think like when it comes to putting out content, if I have the common theme in my mind, then I can tie whatever I'm talking about into my common theme.
Common theme is really important. It's kind of the consistency of message.
Okay, perfect.
Does that help?
I actually have a question.
Sure.
So underneath your experience, there are the little description boxes. How much should I write for a description? Should I just do like little bulleted points, or?
Yeah.
And are those really important to write descriptions?
You know, again, you want to pull out what you've accomplished in those different experiences that are going to be most relatable to what the people who are reading your profile might be interested in.
Okay.
So again, it's kind of part of the process. It's like, what is it that I want to be known for? What's going to make me unique, better, different, special? And then think about, you know, pulling out the proof points and with all your experiences that are going to validate what you want to be known for.
Okay.
Sense?
Thank you.
You bet. Other questions? Well, you guys can always find me on LinkedIn. I think I'm easily found on LinkedIn. If you're interested in following me, you can do that. Or if you want to send me a connection invite, I accept every invitation from every student that I get. So I'd be honored to do that. And that's one of the ways you can stay in touch with me if you're interested in doing so. And then if you're ever interested in taking a brand strategy class over in Coles College, I think hopefully I'll be teaching that again next fall. So it's kind of an every other semester thing. But anyway, thank you guys so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. I'm really learned a lot. I really appreciate you speaking with us.
Absolutely. All right. Well,
yeah, this is really great. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.